In 2008, when I first began working alongside Doncaster Museum, I came across this specimen, which is an ichthyosaur, which is an extinct marine reptile. It was hiding away in the collections here. And the specimen turned out to be very, very important. Now, first of all, the museum staff had actually confused it for a cast, so they actually thought it wasn't the real deal. And it turned out it was. And how we found that out was that, in comparison to many casts, many replicas, specimens such as this have really great detail. And the detail of this specimen, as you'll see from some of the close-ups, is really quite exquisite. You even have, which I found, some of the stomach contents actually preserved within the specimen, and they display the last meal of this animal before it died. So throughout here, in the centre of the animal, is actually tiny hooklets were from extinct squid, a thing called cephalopods, and they are all along the arm hooks, the arm tentacles of these squids, these tiny hooks, and throughout there, probably hundreds to thousands of individual samples, or even a few just scattered in the rock. So right there, away from the main area of the stomach contents, is one of the tiny hooklets, so you can see it has a hook shape to it at the very distal end there. And these hooklets from the arms of the squid which this ichthyosaur was feeding on. Now this specimen was probably found as a loose block of shale at the base of a cliff somewhere along the Dorset coast. Now, what became very interesting whilst I was researching this specimen, we didn't actually have any information about where it was discovered. And luckily, there was a tiny belemnite, another one of those squids, preserved in the matrix, which is the scientific word for the rock it's laying in. And this belemnite, I was able to find that it's only found in one particular layer of rock. And this rock is actually down along the Dorset coast. And from there, we managed to find that this belemnite is in one specific layer of stage of rock in the time called the early Jurassic, which is about 190 million years ago. And it turned out that actually ichthyosaur remains like this are very, very rare. And so this ichthyosaur became one of the only few specimens recorded from this particular horizon. And since then, this specimen formed my first ever peer-reviewed scientific paper. And it turned out that it's actually the most complete ichthyosaur from this time interval, which we call the Plainsbachyian, in the world. It's really quite a unique specimen. And that was all thanks to this belemnite, which was able to essentially date the specimen and give it its age. The humerus in ichthyosaurs is very diagnostic, which means they show individual features which are found to vary between different species of ichthyosaur. And the humerus in this specimen turned out to be actually very unusual in comparison to other ichthyosaurus. So the humerus, which we have the forefin there with the rest of the hand essentially, all the individual finger digits, the humerus turned out to be very, very unusual. Now also we have preserved on here as well is the femur, the upper leg bone. And the ratio between the humerus and the femur also helped to determine that this animal probably swam quite differently to the other species which are unknown for this animal. So I began to collaborate with one of the world's leading experts on ichthyosaurs, somebody called Professor Judy Messere, who works over in New York. And Judy and I have now spent over 4 years working on this specimen, comparing certain features of it with many hundreds and hundreds of ichthyosaurs from all discovered across the British Isles and held in many other museum collections. And from there, we've actually determined that this is a brand new species known to science. And what this means is that this is one, we've managed to find actually a couple more, which we are able to refer to this species. And what this means is actually this is the holotype, which means it's the specimen for this brand new species. Now the scientific paper is actually yet to be published, but it's actually due out early next year, early 2015. And hopefully this will generate some really intense interest in this specimen.